Hey YouTube, this is Jaden Storm coming at you, and I'm coming at you with an informative video on a follow-up of a video of mine I made called Quit Whining About Link Joker. And I said if I had five thumbs up on that video, I'd make a tip on a video on some tips of how to beat Link Joker. And this is gonna probably maybe be 1 to 2 parts because I don't want it to drag out too long. So anyway, guys, let's just jump straight into this. Link Joker's been around here in the American meta for a while. I'm not saying I'm the best Link Joker player around my area. I'm not saying I have the deck completely mastered, but I do like to think that I have a good 85 to 90% of it mastered at this point, because I think Link Joker, for all of its fear and frustration that it might cause other players, I think it's a deck that is not as bad as people make it out to be. Let's put it that way. So here, I'm going to give you a few tips of cards that you should look out for. So this is just my opinion. You can do with it what you will. If you have played against any Link Joker player, chances are you have seen one of these two cards. The reason one is in a sleeve and the other one is not is because I do not play the Schwartz Ride Chain. So these are the two main Link Joker decks that you will see in the American meta right now. I really don't... I mean, I know there's another starter. It's like that other grade 0 if it boosts a unit with limit break. You can slide him into the soul and draw a card. I don't like that. It's just me. But I think it's fair to say that 85% of Link Joker players are using this as their starter. Or at least tech one, because I've seen some short deck profiles where people actually tech one of these. But long story short, you've seen these cards, and honestly, you know, as good as this card is, I really don't see it as that much of a threat, because in order to activate his skill, your opponent has to have a locked unit. And then this right here, as you know, it goes with the Schwartz Ride Chain. I don't see the Schwartz Ride Chain being one of the better Link Joker choices out there right now if you're wanting to play Link Joker. If you disagree with me, that's your opinion. But I find this Ride Chain to be very inconsistent. So I'm going to be talking mainly about Nebula decks, because I think Nebula is the best Link Joker deck that there is to play right now. So obviously that's where all my advice is going to be coming from. If you are playing against Schwarzschild, you can apply the same tips that I will give you in that video, because chances are you will see a lot of the same cards, because as of right now, Link Joker does not have a wide selection of cards they can choose. There might just be a few differences. So anyway, these two are also very good cards that you see played in Link Joker Index. This right here is the standard K clone that a lot of decks have, where if they have a certain archetype of Vanguard, then when the unit swings, they're going to gain an additional 3,000 power, making them a 10k grade 1. I like these types of cards very well, because they can combo as 2 cards. They can be a 7k boost in the early game, and then in the late game, if you have to, you can move them into the front row, and they can serve as a 10k attacker if you're stretched for an attack in the late game. Also, because of Nebula's skill, this thing can get pretty big at times. I think I've had him by himself at 34 at times. I mean, it is insane. Now, this comes into question. These are the two cards you're going to see in the back row more times than not. You're going to see this from their starter, and this is the best boosting unit that Link Joker, I think, has, period. That's because his ability is, for each locked unit, when he boosts, well, actually, no, let me rephrase that. Each locked unit, pretty much for every locked unit your opponent has, he gains 2,000 power. So if you have if you have 5 locked units, if 5 of your opponent's units are locked, he's a 17k booster, which is insane. So he can range anywhere from 7 to 17,000 as a booster, or if you're desperate, I guess you could use him as an attacker, even though I never really do that. That raises the question, what if you're playing a deck that can retire units? I highly suggest that you blast this. Lanthanum. because he will hurt you for more than one turn. This unit right here, as good of a starter as this is, and as very consistent as this card is, he can only affect you once, because when his ability is used, which is Counterblast 1, and you move him into the Soul, it is, I believe, yes. Double checking there, I don't want to be wrong for you guys. So you Counterblast 1, move to the Soul, and you lock one unit. As long as your opponent has a locked unit, you can activate his skill. So he can only affect you one time. So if you ever are playing Link Joker and you're playing something that can retire units, or you have a unit that can pop something, like Eradicators, Kagero, Dark Regulars have Gwen the Ripper, any clan that has a card that can retire units, I highly suggest you pick this off. I mean, true, your opponent does have 4, as opposed to maybe only 1 to 2 of this. But in the long run, I'd rather zap one of their big boosters that's going to be causing me a lot more trouble in the late game than it would in, as opposed to just affecting me for one turn. Because this card can affect you for multiple turns if you're playing a good Link Joker player that knows if you can't end the game on an ultimate lock where you lock all 5 units, then you space out the lock. So he'll be hurting you more turns than not, because this card is so deadly when a proper Link Joker player uses it. Now, a couple other some grade 2s that you will probably see in Link Joker decks are right here, and just checking on my time here, guys. Okay, these grade 2s, guys, are some of the are probably the 3 best grade 2s that Link Joker has available to them right now. This is a grade 1 version of this. This is Mobius Breath, where his ability is only if he's a Vanguard. If his attack hits you, if his attack successfully hits your Vanguard, then he can lock any one of your units for one turn. So he is a good pressure card in early game for a Link Joker player. What you'll see them do mostly is that they'll use their Dusttail Unicorn, obviously, sometimes as a booster, or they'll move them over to a rear guard and then they'll call something else. 9 times out of 10, the Vanguard booster is going to be one of these 2 units. But what Mobius Breath gives a Link Joker player is it forces them to forces their opponent to make a decision in the early game. Do I want to waste cards early or not? My best piece of advice is if your opponent rides this as their only grade 2, 9 times out of 10, it is better off for you to let them hit. Because if you guard for, say, trigger to pass, and your opponent hits a trigger and gets through anyway, you pretty much just wasted a card. Because 9 times out of 10, if they go first and they attack for 14 or 16, and you have a Vanguard with 7,000 power, you're going to have to lay down a 10,000 point shield just to say 1 to pass. But if they hit a trigger, then obviously the card that you used to block it was wasted. So my best piece of advice for this card is if this is your opponent's Vanguard, I would highly suggest you just letting it hit, because it's only going to lock one of your boosters for one turn, and honestly, out of every Link Joker deck, you would rather save your shields for late game when you're going to need them instead of guarding this little thing. The last grade 2 that you see is one that almost every clan has now, and it's a 12k attacker. His name is Radon, pretty much the same as just the K-Clone. If you have a Starvader Vanguard, he's going to swing for 12. These 2 grade 2s right here are the most crucial rear guards. These cards, when they hit the field, you want to get rid of them. Quick, fast, in a hurry, because both of these cards, when activating, when Nebula's skill goes off, are going to be nightmares for you. Because he sits at 12, he sits at 9. Him being a grade 2 version of Lanthanum, he's just going to get huge. And 9 times out of 10, Link Joker players, they want to have these 2 at this as a column, because when using Nebula's skill, guys, this is only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, because Nebula is going to give him 3,000, and then off his own skill, he's going to gain 2, and then he's going to gain a 17k, anywhere from a 7 to a 17k boost, and just be one huge attack column. Like, this can be in the 40s. Easy, guys. So, if you do ever see either one of these 2, if your opponent is ever foolish enough to stick this in the front row, kill it instantly. And if your opponent puts this in the front row before they use their limit breaks, kill it. Because you do not want to have to deal with this in the late game, because it will, I promise, be worse in the late game if you let it sit there and it just accumulates 5,000 power for each locked unit. 3,000 off Nebula's skill, 2,000 off of its own. So this thing right here, definitely get rid of. As well as get rid of this thing, guys. Because when this is on the board, you do not want this to gain 3,000 power extra for every single locked unit your opponent controls, while it's already going to gain 3,000 off its own skill. So if you see either one of these 3 units in the front row, I suggest you clear them out. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to see this. If your opponent is foolish enough to stick it there, kill it. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to see these. Now, if you were to see something like... Hang on, guys. I have to find him. If you were to see these as your 2 rear guards, like you have your Krypton, which is your 10k vanilla, and you have your Radon over here, kill Radon. Because you would rather him have just a 10k vanilla. 1 second, guys, because I don't know. 1 second. Okay, guys, I'm back. If you see this, let him be. You would much rather kill Radon, because Radon, for the simple fact being, he is a 12k attacker, so if a Link Joker player runs out of Counterblast and they can't lock you anymore, you would much rather have to deal with this in just late game when Link Joker runs out of options and they run out of resources than this, because he's at least going to be 12k 19 with a boost with one of these. So it's smarter to kill this. Now, if you ever see these 2 as your opponent's rear guards with their Vanguard, I'd recommend killing this first, then going after this. But that's just me. And let me check on my time here, guys. Alright. Okay, guys, I'm going to cut it off right here and then go into part 2. So be sure to check out my video on part 2 on how to be better, some tips on how to beat Link Joker, guys.